Hi, I'm Dr. Richard Visser. I spent my whole life in the pursuit of health, well being, and longevity. In this podcast, I will take you on a journey through the wilderness of scientific research and experiential knowledge. Together, we will clear a path towards optimal health, well being, and longevity. Welcome to the Visser podcast. This is episode. Right, start over. Welcome to the Visser podcast. This is episode number 6, and we're going to talk about exercise, movement, VO2 Max, where you need to be at to be healthy, to improve your well-being, and to have longer lifespan with quality. So when we talk about exercise, I get excited. Why? Because this is probably the biggest lever we can pull. This is the one thing that if you do, it's the most important thing to do. I mean, there's nothing else, and there's no excuse not to do it. A sedentary lifestyle will get you dead. So no movement is equal to dead. Get it through your thick skull. So what are we going to do? At any age, we need to move. That is the minimum we need to do. Movement. If you're very old and you're fragile and you need to start, then start. Start moving every day. Move until you at a pace where you can still kind of talk. You're not completely out of breath, and keep that going. For the rest of us, we need to get off our fat ass and move. In all-cause mortality, this is a 300 percentile. This is 3 times lengthening your life, increasing the quality of life. There is no rival. The risk factors for blood pressure, diabetes, lipids, stress, endothelial function, autonomic nervous system, vagal tone, all this stuff comes through exercise. You have a 50% reduction in cardiovascular disease compared to a sedentary lifestyle if you're moving. 50%. You have a 5-year increase in life expectancy. Health span without disability, 4 to 5 year increase. Okay, so here's the first thing that happens that we need to know, that changes how we think about what we have to do. At 75 years old, you have a drastic shift, and it's not a cardiopulmonary decline, but it is musculoskeletal decline. The biggest loss of strength and muscle mass. You basically go into a free fall. Now, hold on to that thought. The studies are out that at 65, and these are cohort, at 65, if you get a fall and you break a hip or you break something, half of you won't survive a year, will be dead within a year. The other half will live on miserable, with pain, with lack of movement, much movement, just difficult. That's 65. This is before the free fall of muscle mass and strength at 75. Okay, so if you want to be able to pick yourself up off the ground, if you want to be able to carry groceries, if you want to have time with your grandchildren, if you want to be a vital element or an element in your family's life, in your community's life, in your social life, without people having to spoon feed you and have you bedridden in a bed, then you need to listen. to this at any age. 20, 30, 40, 50, you really need to listen. Okay, so when we look at, I mean, the first time they really saw this when they sent astronauts in outer space for extended period of time. They came back down to Earth, and because of lack of gravity, they weren't even able to walk. So we've also seen in studies that someone that gets bed rest or is bedridden for 3 weeks, it's the equivalent of 3 years of physiological decline in the body. 3 years. In 3 weeks, you lose 3 years. This is how fast it goes. This is how vulnerable we are to be fragile. How easily it is to start breaking bones. We need this. We need this for our metabolism. We need this for all parts of living. We need this for movement, motion. We need this for quality of life. We need this for heart health. We need this for everything. So exercise becomes the most critical thing you can do for yourself at any age. And especially when you're aging, you need to ramp it up, not down. So after your 30s, mid 30s, late 30s, growth hormone starts to drop, testosterone starts to drop, in females estrogen. You have the whole hormonal cycle that starts to kind of, downturn. This causes, amongst other things, loss of muscle mass and loss of strength. So from that point on, we're really trying to keep as much as we have, build some if we can, which becomes harder, but we have to basically hold on to what we have. So strength and resistance training becomes critical. But the other critical part is your endurance health. And so we're going to talk about VO2 Max in a bit, and doing it as a baseline, because we need to know where you are. With strength training, it's pretty easy. You go to a gym, you get a trainer, and we can quickly assess where you're at. You do a 2-minute hang, we have you carry some stuff. We can actually measure, okay, this is where you're at with your strength training. With your conditioning, we want to see where you're at, your VO2 max. So we need to test that. So that could be at a sports medicine facility. There's one near you, I'm sure. And you need to do that as your baseline to see where you're starting, to see how bad your endurance engine is or how good it is. You need to have a baseline so that you know how much time you need to invest in that. So when we look at what the impact is of exercise, and not only to, keep fit and all this stuff, but it really impacts our autonomic nervous system. So we have a sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. It's controlling our internal environment. So it also gives us homeostasis, which means it helps to keep the body level no matter what's going on. Very important. So just to explain it real quick, sympathetic nervous system is fight or flight. Parasympathetic nervous system, we're really looking at, that's when you're sleeping, when you're digesting, it's all this other stuff. But really, when we look at that, we see one kind of thing that pops up, and that's very important. This is the vagus nerve. Vagus nerve has a role in lowering blood pressure, controlling the heart rate, the digestion. Whereas the autonomic nervous system stimulates the blood vessels to constrict when needed, the muscles to contract harder, to sweat. So it's kind of an interplay between these two. And exercise keeps these systems tuned up in our bodies. And you can see where we would need this. So when we look at the VO2 max, and why do we mention this? Well, we want to do a VO2 max test, and it usually gets done just to give you an idea, you could look it up and see it. But you're usually on a bicycle or treadmill. You got a nose clip on. They got a, they're covering your mouth because they need to, and nose, or just mouth, to see what you're inhaling as far as oxygen and what you're exhaling as far as oxygen and CO2. And then they'll start testing you on and giving you resistance and speed. And so you're basically will have to do an exercise either on a treadmill or on a cycle and go for max. They'll ramp you up till you're at max. And what they're looking for is to, at what point does your body stop taking up more oxygen? And really what we're looking at with the VO2 max is, okay, how much oxygen are you able to intake in your lungs? Then, how is this transferred? How much of this and how efficiently is it transferred to your blood? And then from the blood and inside the blood, how is your heart dealing with pumping it to all your muscles? And then when it gets to your muscles, how is the uptake from your muscles? And then how is the waste product returned? So we're really looking at the efficiency of your body when you make it work. And so this is super important. So it's very important, and they have the scales for this. You don't have to go study VO2 max because, it's still not a perfect method, but it's the best method we have. And it gives you a good starting point, and you can measure yourself continuously through the years, through the months, on where you're at and how it's improving. And it gives us a very good indication on how fit you are. Just how fit you are. And we need that. We need to know how fit you are. And so this gives us that. You'll hear stuff like METs, okay? METs is a metric we're using to look at how much output you can do. Someone that runs, if you're doing 4 to 5 METs is like walking 3 kilometers. That's about 6 miles in 1 hour run. Then you're at 10 METs per hour. So this is one of the indicators that's being used. We're also using, how much oxygen, liter per minute, and then a liter per minute per weight that we're doing. So that's actually where the calculation happens on per kilogram, how fit you are. So when we look at this, we have tablets on VO2 max with indicators. So we have the age indicator, elite status, and you want to reach the elite status minimum in your age group. So, but they'll explain that to you when you do your VO2 max. And the VO2 max is important because we see where you start. We see where we can kind of begin with you, at what point. It's an indication of how much work we need to do on the cardio front. So very important to start there. What I want to talk about is some of the misconceptions and some of the ideas when working out, when training, especially when we know that power and some muscle mass is what we're going to be losing at age, and is what we need to hold on to for dear life, because that's going to give us longevity, and it's going to give us quality of life. Absolutely, bar none, the most important parameters. So how do we get there? How do we do that? Well, we need to do resistance training. Even if you're older, you need to do resistance training. Well, how do you do resistance training? Well, you can do it with body weight. You can go to a gym. I would suggest get a trainer. And make sure you're healthy. Make sure you don't have any issues where training at that point can be an issue. Get cleared by your physician if it's the first time you're doing this. If you're already training, go in, get a good trainer, start training with resistance. And your resistance training should be a minimum of 3 times a week. I don't care what age. 50 minutes. Never do cardio before weight training. Do your weight training first. And the reason I say this is because weight training is kind of flight or fight. You need to get, very immediate exertion, of energy in a short burst. So you have short bursts of energy. And it really happens in the beginning of your workout because that's when your body releases you know, the growth hormone, it releases the testosterone, it releases everything that is needed for fight and flight, which is exactly what you need to train with resistance. So you need to do it at the beginning. After 50 minutes, that's going to be done. Okay, so then your body goes into, okay, now we can start burning fat. So that's when you kick in your cardio at normal level. So you want to keep your cardio at, medium level. You don't want to be, you don't want to go full throttle. Just medium level, something you can handle 20 minutes to 30 minutes after your workout. So you do 50 minutes and then 20 to 30 minutes, and you're taking advantage of your body. You're helping your body in that sense. Okay? Now, before you start your resistance training, of course, warm up a little bit, stretch, and your stretching can be later. Don't worry about doing stretching too early. Warm up is more important than stretching at that point. So that's kind of a baseline, okay? And then once a week, upping it to twice a week when you get used to it, I want you to do HIIT, okay? HIIT. And that is the one day that you're off, sprint or go on a bicycle, and I want you to go, 1 minute to max capacity, drop it down, rest 2 minutes. If you're further advanced, I would like to see you do a 4 minute, but this is then a little bit lesser intense, and then 4 minute rest. And you could do 4 minute, or you can do like a 4 minute, 3 minute rest, depending on how fit you are. And the rest, the kind of the indicator of the rest is your heart rate needs to be back at before you did this, like push. Okay, so you're gonna push hard, maximum. Do it for a minute, and it's less, of course, if you're doing it for 4 minutes, because you got to keep consistent during the 4 minutes. So you do it a little less intense, but it's got to be at the highest intensity. At the end, you got to be exhausted. Your heart's got to be beating hard. And so then you're looking at how fast can, and this is, of course, triggering the vagus nerve. Breathe through your nose, breathe in through your nose, and it calms you quicker. Don't keep breathing through your mouth, because at the end of that run, you're going to be breathing through your mouth heavily. So you want to walk, or you want to kind of slow things down and drop your heart rate back to where it was, back to where it was. And then do it again. And so this you can do 4 or 5 times, 6 times with the 2 minute rests. If you're dropping it quicker, shorten the rest, but get the 2 minutes initially because you're going to need it. And so what this does is really get your cardiovascular, your fitness level up quickly without having to run 10K or to run, ridiculous amounts of kilometers. This gets it up quickly. And if you can do this twice a week, amazing. If you like doing distance work, go ahead, do it. Just watch out that you're not overdoing it and damaging your knees, hips, and stuff like that. So, it's hard to damage, but still, there is a wear and tear at a certain point. Most of us don't reach that point, but there is a point. So, and usually, and the reason we need coaching in this, in both scenarios, is because no one goes all, the top athletes in the world don't train all out all the time. They might do 1 or twice a week all out or above what they would do in a race. And the rest of the time, they're under that level. So it's really a technique to this. Because if you go all out all the time, you will not get improved. You won't get improvements. So you really need to get coaching in this. I've done a lot of work with Olympic athletes. I did about 3 Olympic cycles. Was at the 2004 Games in Greece. And tested a lot of these athletes, worked with a lot of Cuban sports psychologists, Cuban sports trainers specifically, and sports medicine doctors. to optimize athletes and in that learn how we can optimize our systems, what's needed. And at the same time, working with the American College of Sports Medicine, in the later years, and really getting a lot of knowledge about this topic. Not just my own knowledge, because I've been training my whole life, basically, doing sports. Initially, it started training to improve sports. Then it became, teenage years and up, it became training for aesthetics, to look good, to get the girl, that kind of stuff. And then went back to, training for health. And really now I'm looking at, okay, I need to be training for health, wellness, and longevity. Longevity becomes, a goal. I'm getting there. I'm close to 60, so I'm getting there. And so it becomes more important, and it becomes important what we do with resistance training. And I look at people in the gym and I see all the mistakes. So there's a way to do this. There's a smart way to train. There's a smart way to get to level at any age, and we have to do it. I think one of the best people to look at, on if you're looking at social media or you're looking at YouTube, is Peter Attia, MD. He's doing some great work in this field. But really, it comes down to, okay, let's set a baseline where you're at. Let's do an assessment on your strength. Let's do an assessment with VO2 Max in a sports medicine facility to see where you're at with your fitness level and see what needs to be done there. They'll tell you what needs to be done. They'll tell you what your category lies in and where you can go. And you know that with every year after 30, there's a 10% decrease. If you keep it up, if you train hard, it's probably 5% decrease. But we need to minimize that decrease as the years go on, because in the end we're going to need it. So with if we're looking at the strength training part, we really need to get on this, and we need to get on this with a trainer, and we cannot be afraid of weights. I mean, we're talking heart health, cardiovascular health. We're talking our muscle density, bone density, and we're talking basically buffering ourselves for falls. At 70, 75 or older, I want to be able to get off the ground myself. I want to be able to carry, what I need to carry. I want to be able to, enjoy the grandkids. I want to be able to walk up a set of flights. I could be in an airport, they shut down the electric stairs. I want to be able to climb up that, no problem. And that takes work now. So that's what we're going to be doing. So this is the first part. I will be going into more exercise. I just wanted to kind of give a kind of ballpark initial feel of what we're going to be covering, and really mostly talk about, okay, what do we need to do to basically get started? Where are our baselines? Just like in the previous episode with nutrition, okay, where do we start? What do we have to do? And how do I, what do I have to do to check my blood, my DNA, look at my gut biome, see how healthy that is, how diverse that is. Looking at all these biomarkers to see where I need to improve it. We know now that exercise, movement, and resistance training, and also cardio training is the one lever that is the biggest lever we have for age management. So we definitely have to make use of this. And so this is just an overview, and it's a beginning of what we talk about exercise. And there's so much to go through in this, in this space. So thank you for joining. Subscribe, hit the bell notification, and we're gonna go ballistic with this. So you're gonna learn a lot. Take care. Until next time.